Hi, I am Diane Morton-Gattullo, and welcome to another episode of Warehouse 34. And today we are joined by one of the nicest people in Staten Island. Her name is Kristine Garlisi. She is from the Nicotra Foundation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Diane. I'm so happy to be here. Always happy to come and talk about some of my favorite things like the Nicotras in Staten Island.
Well, I have to say, if you do not know Kristine, and you have never heard the name Kristine Garlisi, you need to, get to know her. She's one of the nicest people ever. And she works for such an amazing group in Staten Island. I mean, Rich and Lois, or Lois and Rich, are synonymous with giving deep, giving hard, and loving this island on a level that most people will never, ever, ever understand.
Yeah,
And
that's absolutely one of the first things that attracted me to them. I wasn't working for them when I first met them, and I was so impressed with how much they love the community. And that was probably in the late 90s. I first met them. They were building the Hilton, and
which is an absolutely beautiful.
It is, and it's an asset to the community. And when I first saw it, when it was being built, I thought, this is big. This is a moment for our community to have a gathering spot like the Hilton Garden Inn on South Avenue, to make sure that we can welcome people from all around the country and the world with pride and have a beautiful place to stay. And I could see at the time that they weren't just building a building, they were building a campus.
I think that they built a family.
They did. They built a neighborhood.
Yes. I mean, there are so many components to their organization. But as big as it gets, and as it spreads and has other buildings, the one thing that I'm so impressed that's never changed is the fact that Lois and Rich know everybody by first name.
They do.
And no matter what time it is, they are on point. They make you feel like you're part of a family.
They do.
For all of the years that we've been going there, the genuine smile and greeting and conversation that I have with them and my husband and our family, it's just, I feel like they are friends that need to be invited over the house and have dinner with us.
I agree. You know what, I describe them, if I'm speaking to them about, maybe people don't know who they are if I'm speaking off island, I say they are innkeepers. It's like you've gone to a bed and breakfast, except the bed and breakfast is 400 acres and 200 rooms in the Hilton and 200 rooms in the Hampton. But Staten Island, we have the perspective that it's the small town in the big city. And I think that is how the Nicotras treat our guests, like you're coming to a small town.
I can't say enough about it. I mean, everybody knows I'm from Bay Ridge, I'm from Brooklyn. And we had small places when I was growing up there. We never had anything like the Hilton in our neighborhood, never. At one point, we had the Gregory Hotel that became the Comfort Inn.
Right.
But it was a small place, and I actually worked there for a period of time under one owner before it became the Comfort Inn.
Then we have the hospitality bond, because if you've worked in hospitality, there's a special bond.
It never leaves
special
you.
Language. It doesn't leave you. When a lot of our guests come from who are business travelers, so people often ask me, well, who stays at the hotel on Staten Island? During the week, we have a lot of business travelers, and they consistently tell us that there is no other Hilton Garden Inn like ours. The Nicotras have curated an art collection scattered around the property.
This show is not going to be long enough to discuss.
This will be episode 1. So
all of that, yes.
I'm going to come back again.
And you know what? I think that after this, we should try to develop something where we can go on location.
Oh, we would love that.
I would really love to share with everyone. There may be one person in Staten Island who just moved here who has not seen the art collection.
Yes.
And really talk about where it
we do
from.
Tours like that, and we also host groups that tour us and enjoy the art on campus, and then have lunch with us at Lorenzo's restaurant.
I love Lorenzo's.
Oh, we love it too. And the Nicotra, we all say we love to eat, and you can tell, because when you come, you can tell these are people who enjoy food, enjoy restaurant and menu development.
Yes.
In my very first week, I was working for the Nicotras. And this was in 2008, I started with them.
What do you do with the Nicotra? What's
So,
your title?
my
Besides
title is
everything and one of the most beloved.
Oh,
but what is the exact official title?
So my official title is Chief Operating Officer for the Nicotra Group, and I'm also the Executive Director for the Lois and Richard Nicotra Foundation.
an amazing foundation,
Yes.
which is
Yes, we're going to touch on all of it.
Yes.
And the first week I was there, I remember the chef called over and he said, could a couple of people from the management office come down? We have some hamburger tasting we have to do. And I said, excuse me? Well, we take great pride in our Lorenzo's hamburgers. We think that our Lorenzo's hamburger is the best on Staten Island, and it's been voted the best on Staten Island.
Excellent.
But that day back in 2008, I said, oh, this is the job for me. There's a hamburger tasting involved, there's food tasting. So, you know, we love it. We're very excited about what we do. The Nicotras are there 7 days a week pretty much.
Yes.
They've been you know, married for more than 40 years. They work together every day, so they say in a way it's like they've been married 80 years because they're together, but they love it. They absolutely love it, and we love being around them. You know, to take a personal moment, I will say that my parents have a beautiful long marriage, married more than 50 years. So between my parents and the Nicotras, both wonderful examples of what married life should be. And I take inspiration from that. So aside from the fact that they've been wonderful professional mentors to me, because everything I know about real estate and hospitality, I learned from Lois and Richard Nicotra, and I feel you could not have a better master class. You know, they really are great at what they do. But also, you know,
You're fortunate, because not
I'm
everybody
very
has
fortunate.
that opportunity.
I work hard for it. I try to put in.
Well, you earned it.
And nobody can put the amount of hours they put in, but I do try to be in step with them as much as I can. But also take great inspiration that they love what they do so much and that they do it together.
I have to say, we were at a show last Friday night. We went to go see Vinny Medugno.
Vinny's show.
And everybody knows
Wonderful.
I call him my Vinny because he's like our son. But I
Beautiful.
always, my Vinny. He is just the sweetest. And the
doll.
opening of the show, to see Lois and Rich get up there and welcome everybody.
Yep.
And then to be plated with an amazing salad that you grow
That we
on property.
grew.
now.
I know. In fact, when I arrived, I said, are my feet going to be on camera? Because I had my farm shoes on. So, you know, the Nicotras have brought so many wonderful things to our borough. And I will say so many wonderful things I never thought I'd experience in my profession. So last year, we opened Nicotra Grown Organic Rooftop Farm, which is a 40,000 square foot organic rooftop farm.
Amazing.
Right on the top of Corporate Commons 3, which is the big glass building that we light for special occasions. So this week we had it lit for World Juvenile Diabetes Awareness. And we say we're the Empire State Building of Staten Island. So anybody who'd like to light for a special cause can contact me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so right at the top of that building, 40,000 square feet of herbs and all different lettuces and carrots right about now. We have a lot of root vegetables. I did not think I would know as much about farming as I know now, and I couldn't be happier. So the carrots we had on Friday night were fresh from the farm.
Everything was delicious. I
Thank
mean,
you.
the show was amazing. Vinny did a phenomenal job, but everything that was put in front of us was presented beautifully.
Thank you.
And sometimes things are presented beautifully, but they don't taste
Yes.
wonderful, and that is not the case.
Thank you. And
It
we
was
always
delicious.
say the food has to taste great. Take, for example, the Nicotras have another eatery called the Commons Cafe. So the Commons Cafe
I go there a lot.
has a terrific mission. 100% of the profits go to charity. So we're very proud of the cafe. The Nicotras established it in 2011 with a $1.6 million gift so that immediately we could start giving away the profit, meaning that the restaurant opened, we didn't know anyone anything. We could immediately start, and they don't take a penny of profits, the Nicotras. So.
Now, the restaurant supports what organizations?
Well, it would be impossible for me to name, because get this, we've supported more than 400 nonprofit groups. So they've gifted more than $1 million, supported 400 nonprofit groups. They also use some of the profit to support our employees' children and grandchildren's college journey. So we give book scholarships, $1,000 a year to them to help them. But mainly it's to the nonprofit groups on Staten Island.
That's wonderful.
So we have helped parishes, we've helped Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops, we've helped a convent get a new roof, we've bought winter coats for kids at a school. I went to visit the school, and one of the parent coordinators was telling me that some of the parents were struggling. This was a couple of years ago, and we went back the next day with coats. If I tell you that that has been one of the biggest gifts of my adult life, to really feel like we are building community, that we have real social impact, and that's really what the Nicotras do.
The fact that you can go in and have a really good lunch, I mean, it's
Well, and so that's what
and then you know that
Right.
what you've just purchased and you're so happily consuming with your friends
Yes.
or bringing home, because everybody also who really knows me well knows that I don't actually cook. It's not that I don't know how, I don't cook.
I did hear in a recent story about how you didn't have gas because you weren't cooking in your kitchen. So I'm a viewer as well. So I do know your story. But we always say if the food is not good, but the mission is excellent, people are not going to come back.
Right.
But if the food is delicious and the mission is special, those two things are magic. And we say your meal is on a mission, eat good, do good.
Oh, I love that.
And that is our motto, and we are really endeavoring to do that. And the Nicotras are about to open their second social enterprise eatery, which is called Pienza Brick Oven Pizza, and it'll be right on the first level of that beautiful building with the farm on top. So talk about farm to table, it literally has to take an elevator right down. It's going to be on your table.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep, so Pienza, they just bought a cute little yellow Fiat so that we can park it right outside and have a little bit of Italy right on South Avenue.
Oh, I love that.
Very excited about it.
I go to corporate, I go to your other location, and I bring things home.
Thank you.
No, thank you, because I get to technically prepare because I put it on a plate.
You can plate it, right.
So I've done something to contribute to this meal, and Steve loves it because he is such a healthy eater, and I am not. I'm, essentially Peter Pan, a child who thinks, cheeseburgers are like the best thing on the face of the earth.
Well, the Commons Cafe, you can bring
things.
it home, and the Commons Cafe really built on the Nicotra's start, which was the Everything Yogurt franchise that they developed in the late 70s. So in a way, it's kind of like it came home again. So that Everything Yogurt concept with a quick service eatery that has some healthy food, and I love that, you're all enjoying the healthy food. I will say I have a fry or two every once in a while, but to have that in a way come home again and to change it and make the mission to give back to our community. They have a giant love sculpture on South Avenue, which is open to anybody to come and take photos with. And I think between the love sculpture, between us lighting the building for special causes, and between the Nicotra is really their focus on social enterprise between Commons Cafe and Pienza, it's all different ways that we show Staten Island the love that we have for it.
That's so important. People look at organizations and then they look at the big banner, huge charities.
Yes.
And yes, everybody needs it. Everybody needs the support. But the smaller ones that do boots on the ground type of work that directly impact a person's life.
Yes, the little food pantries that are in the neighborhoods.
There and the person
100%.
really needs it.
Yeah.
I feel that was one of the parts of the show when I developed the show that I really wanted to showcase organizations that really have a direct pipeline to people in need that may not have the biggest voice in the room, that you don't hear, that name all the time. So I've wanted to bring others in to share that direct pipeline access.
That's a great mission to have, and that's really what we've tried to do with our Love Staten Island group on Facebook.
I love that.
Thank you. And
You're
also
welcome.
with our Instagram presence, I know, and we love celebrating, shining a light outward, I really do feel helps, it reflects back on you. And the Nicotras do that with their business model, and we do it with our philanthropy, and we do it with our social enterprise, but we also do it with our social media, which makes us a little different because not many people associate social media with positivity.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And so we've really stayed the course, and especially over these last difficult years when people have used social media as a very angry landing spot, we've really tried to elevate the conversation and celebrate what's going on locally and also celebrate local views. We have some members that are posting gorgeous views of our park and our shore, or even right outside their window. So it's elevating, it really is.
I think the theme of love should be spread and celebrated everywhere, and the fact that you can have people, do you remember years ago, people would take, maybe they still do, take pictures of them on location with the Advance.
Yes.
And it's like I took the Advance on vacation with me. So now it's like, yes, I can take the Advance on vacation, but I can also take love.
Take a little love with you. And we have
wherever
love
I go, or
of
whatever,
all different
whatever I'm
sizes.
celebrating.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, in a way what started, I'm very active on social media. I do a lot of storytelling. We have so many happy events at the Hilton, from the cabarets that we have in Lorenzo's to all sorts of private events going in at Above, which is our rooftop venue.
I have to tell you, I love Above.
I bet you do.
I do. I love Above.
It's got a really elegant feel to it, and it has, no pun intended, a very elevated feel to it.
Yes.
So it's a space that's very special, and whether people are celebrating a Sweet 16 or any sort of family events like a communion or a shower, I feel like I love when people, the elevator doors open and the guest comes out.
You really don't expect something that looks like
and
that.
they say, wow. And, you know, that is so gratifying. It's hugely gratifying.
I have to say that when I walk in to the main entrance, there are people who've been there for years.
Yes.
I mean, as long as I've been there.
Which is rare in hospitality.
Yes, yes.
And you know that working in hospitality. A lot of times there's high turnover, but the Nicotras, the hotel's been open for more than 20 years. We're hitting a really special moment for Team Nicotra right now because we're celebrating a lot of 20-year anniversaries. So for a fairly young company, this is a significant moment that people have been with us for 2 decades. But when I say to people outside of our little Team Nicotra that are in hospitality, I say, we've had waiters with us for 20 years.
Yes.
Ozzy and Lorenzo's with us for 20 years. Our director of security with us for 20 years. They're shocked. But that's really what the Nicotras have done. As employers, they feed us lunch and dinner every day. So every day you're getting fed. We are competitive, of course, with our salaries.
That is not the norm,
I mean,
though.
that is not the norm.
Not the norm.
Not the norm. And they built 2 beautiful employee cafeterias. We have one at the Hilton, one at the Hampton. So it's not like you're grabbing food that's left over from an event. Our chef places out food every day, and we all eat as a family. So we have those 2 opportunities. We gather as a work team for a harvest festival in October where we get to bring our kids and everyone's dressed up and there's candy. We do a holiday event. We do employee lunches. We do a barbecue over the summer, which I post about, and people are always like, can I come to that? It looks like a carnival. It's huge. But one of the sweetest things I think that the Nicotras do for their employees is Lois handwrites a birthday card to every single employee. And I know, if you pause for a second, first of all, how many handwritten birthday cards are you getting now? It's 2022, almost 2023. You really don't get them. But the fact that she stops and writes for nearly 500 people.
That's amazing.
A handwritten birthday card, and it always has a special note in it. It's not generic. So those are the types of things that I think a guest feels, but they feel it from every employee because we feel it too.
There is one person there, I'm not going to say the person's name, but I know them for a really, really long time. And their children know me from the educational system. So I always stop and say hello and, you know, how's the family, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I found out about the Nicotra Foundation.
Yep.
And that's how I found out about these little nuances.
Yep.
Because at one point, I had asked about the children. And it was, you know, oh, they're good. And of course, they're all picking expensive schools. And they're picking these things, and they want all these things.
These kids.
And yeah. So the parent was like, and they explained to me about the Nicotra Foundation.
Yep.
And I said, really? I said, that's pretty amazing. Now, I've been in the hospitality industry my whole entire life.
Yeah.
And yes, I've worked for some really good places that, you know, took a shine, but not to everyone. Not literally to everyone.
Yep.
It was, I happened to be lucky at that moment or
and
whatever.
And a hard worker, like you said to me. I'm sure you were working hard.
Right.
and
So
shining.
you know, I had that opportunity,
Yep.
but not my peers.
Yeah.
So when this person explained to me about the foundation and how it really affects their life as an employee,
Yep.
I sat back and I said, this is a special place.
It is a special
And
place.
this is something I
It
want to
is.
bring on this show.
Yep.
It was based on that conversation about how important the foundation's input in this particular employee's life and the commitment that was made to make sure that this employee was able to have options and not to have to worry with multiple children on a level that would make you, you know, stay up at night.
Well, and it does. I think for a parent, you know, first of all, I feel like, so my daughter was born in 2002, so my phrase is I've been worrying since 2002. I've been on a straight worry streak.
And it doesn't end.
You know,
Madison
no,
was born
I
in
know.
2000.
Okay.
It never ends, yeah.
You know, the Nicotra say something to us that in a way is parental. It's one of the most caring things an employer can say to an employee. And they say it every time we gather. They say, we want your life to be better because you chose to work for us.
I'm just going to put it on notice. I'm really sorry that I did not, when I was younger, look at this organization because it sounds like I would have had a home for life and enjoyed
I think
every moment of it.
That is why, you know, people will say all the time, you know, that there's that we're all so loyal.
Yes.
But where do you hear that? You know, we want your life to be better because you chose to work for us.
It's huge.
It's huge. And, you know, you can get compensated anywhere, but the feeling that you get.
Being appreciated.
And
respected.
And being seen.
Yes.
You know, so when you walk through the hallway, and I've really tried to emulate this because it meant so much to me when I first started there. I want to know Madison's name. And I want to know where Madison's working. And so when I see employees, I want to know, what is their family up to? What are they doing? How are they doing? Is there something that can be done to make their life better? Which is not to say we all don't have to show up on time and do the work, because we do. That's how we function as a company. But we're personal.
There is a thought process that in very large corporate structures, people don't realize exists. So when I worked at Smith Barney Harris Upham a really, really long time ago, John Orb ran the organization, and he knew everyone's name.
Wow.
He knew if your mother or father was ill, if you had a new child, if you were getting married, if you were getting divorced. And he took the time to walk through that corporation and address people, and not in a way of like a supervisor to an employee where you're nervous, like, oh my goodness. No,
and
with
look
a
at
genuine
the impression
sense.
it leaves on you.
Yes.
It's been years since you worked there.
Oh my gosh,
And yet you're
yes.
immediately, when I say about a caring manager,
yes,
you immediately recall his name.
I did not have that experience in the next place, actually the place before that, but I did follow through when I worked at News Corp.
Okay.
And I worked for somebody named Paul Carlucci, and Paul knew everyone's name, and he knew about their lives, and he was, I would like to say, I'm a little like him, where we come off a little, you know, funny, humorous, tough, but extremely like that tough teddy bear.
Yes.
You know, the teddy bear with the leather jacket. Let's just put that.
And you know, conversely, and in fact, we have a mutual friend, Jacqueline Tacarante.
Yes.
And Jacqueline,
Love
when
her.
she first met me years ago, she moved here from Texas. We had coffee. I had seen her posting a lot online. I invited her kind of to the Commons Cafe, have a cup of coffee, let's get to know each other. And as she left, she hugged me. She said, "Oh, you're kind, Kristine." And because my name's spelled with a K. And I loved that, and she still calls me that. But conversely, sometimes I have to make a little bit of a switch because we are running a business. So sometimes things need to be said or done. But I believe in how the Nicotras communicate, because you can be candid as long as you are kind, respectful, and clear.
And confident.
And
confident on the ground that you stand on,
Right.
that you are, you know, effectively communicating in a respectful way.
Absolutely. And the Nicotras have a vision for a heightened hospitality that we feel our guests really expect and deserve. We feel Staten Island deserves that. We are tired of people viewing Staten Island as a monolith. We are a variety of people who are well-educated, well-spoken, and successful. We have 20,000 people a day who come to South Avenue to work or to learn. We have a number of schools on South Avenue.
Now, that's amazing.
Yes.
That really is. So tell me about some of the schools that are located there.
So there are 13 buildings. The Nicotras have built a beautiful corporate park. It's the only corporate park in New York City.
That's amazing, though,
And
to
we
think
have, it is.
that I drive by this every day.
I know.
So much.
Well, the way they developed South Avenue, it's deceiving in the sense that the buildings are set back. They left full growth trees, which the EPA and the Arbor Day Association have recognized them for being responsible builders. So you don't feel like South Avenue is as developed as it is because they did it in a respectful way. It's set back. So we just had the UFT move into one of our buildings, 1200 South Avenue. So as the retirees are coming, they go to their class and then they come for lunch at the Commons Cafe.
I'm retiring in June.
All right, so we're going to see you at some UFT classes.
Yes.
And what I keep hearing over and over again is that the retired educators say it's almost like they're getting away for the day because they're around the trees. They get to come have lunch. It becomes like a little destination.
And
we
the
have all the
parking is
art.
good.
The parking.
You can't beat that. That's a big thing in Staten Island.
I was going to say,
parking.
and you're from Brooklyn, so you bring
Yes.
that sensibility with you. That
Yes.
parking is where it's at. You know, a lot of our medical practices, we have about 30 physicians' offices on Staten Island, on South Avenue.
My cardiologist is in the complex. Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
and we call it the medical mile because we have so many physicians and even more are coming now to Corporate Commons 3. And one of the biggest things we hear from the patients is that they love that they can just pull in and park. There's no issue. They get out, and I kind of tease sometimes that I feel like a bird's going to land on my shoulder because especially in the spring and the summer when everything's in bloom, I get out of the parking lot and there's birds chirping. It's really a lovely setting, and it's a testament, again, to the vision that the Nicotras have.
It's a lot of thought
Yeah.
put into it.
They're
in
not
the
just,
design.
you know, knocking everything down and building from one edge of their property lot to the other. They're doing it very thoughtfully.
And it shows.
Yeah,
It really
I think
shows.
it does.
I think it's a very, very pretty design, and the campuses are beautiful. I love art. Art is an important part of my life. I grew up being very, very involved with the Brooklyn Museum. My family has items on display there.
Oh, how wonderful.
And have been donors and part of the Brooklyn Historical Society as well. So when I came here, I gravitated to Snug Harbor because of
Beautiful
the
campus.
architecture and the
Yep.
campus and everything. And I really didn't see art installations anywhere else until I started going to the Hilton.
Well, you can
So tell me
certainly,
about
yeah.
some of it.
So we say our campus is our canvas. So the
Yes.
Nicotras, as they travel or as they look in different magazines or as they meet artists, they curate a collection. So everybody has Pinterest. Mr. and Miss Nicotra have an actual folder where they've like ripped out pictures or taken photos and developed. And then as a building evolves or as a campus evolves, they'll say, you know what, we saw that horse in Napa a while back. Let's see if we can work with the artists to make it fit into this space. And a lot of times we work with local artists too, which has been so gratifying to feature Staten Island artists. But we have a diversity of artists that really makes for an interesting tour. So,
What's
if
your
you
favorite
come-
piece before
Oh,
anything?
well-
Are you allowed to say it?
yeah, oh,
Yeah?
absolutely.
Yeah? Because
Absolutely.
I don't want you to hurt someone's feelings who created the art.
No,
and
and
but
you know
have
what?
a favorite piece.
I think my favorite piece right now, because I do feel like art is almost like fashion.
Yes.
You know, things strike you at different points in your life that mean something a little bit different to you at different points in your life. So we recently introduced a new piece called Girl Power. And
Yes.
and you know, I know that when people drive on campus and they see a life-size elephant in a tutu being hoisted by 4 little girls of varying ethnicities with varying textured hair, they might say, what is going on here? But when they walk up and they read the plaque, or when I'm giving a tour, I have had people tear up, and that is what art is. It could be confusion at first, but the reason it means something to me is because the plaque at the bottom of Girl Power says, these 4 little girls are doing the impossible. They are lifting this elephant so she can perform in her purple tutu. And they're doing it because they have the right tools. And for you, the right tool is education. Stay in school and learn, and you can do anything.
That's amazing.
And so we have girls from Integration Charter School and young men too who are passing by that every day. And I have to think, you know, you're never going to reach everybody. But I know
But you're going to try.
we're going to try, and we're going to see little girls reading that and looking up and seeing themselves. And what's nice about it too is that Zach Landsberg, who's the artist, he's a local artist, he hails from Brooklyn, and he's been on campus a lot, so the kids are getting to meet him.
Oh my gosh.
And so often in art or education, you're learning about things that happened already. And as much as, and I love history, I have a master's in government and politics, I'm fascinated by governments and how they work. But to meet a real live artist who's right there with you, describing how he envisioned this, how he worked with the Nicotras to kind of bring it to reality.
Yeah.
Something special about that for the kids.
I also think the fact that when they get older and they reflect upon this experience, that they actually met the person.
Yes, yes.
And that possibly they might be the next artist
Yep.
to put an installation piece there.
Absolutely. It really does show on different levels. And You know, it's ironic maybe that a young man did the girl power, but Mr. and Mrs. Nicotra worked closely with him, and we were working on another piece. And he was so excited about the idea and then committed to come meet the students. And that for us was the magic.
Yes.
Because we want that connection. We have a number of art pieces around the campus, and I love Grounds for Sculpture in Princeton. Really great, but I feel like this gives people an opportunity locally. If you just have an hour or so, come, you know, stroll the campus, come over to the Hilton. We have some really signature pieces.
I mean, I think the pieces that everybody sees the most would be when they walk into the ballrooms outside
Yes.
in that area.
Yep.
But I have to say, every time I walk in, which is almost, you know, every other week.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. That I still get such a thrill. And I stand there.
Yeah.
I'm a smoker, so, you know, during the
So
events I go
are
outside
you
and
talking about
smoke.
the Four Seasons, the
Yes.
musicians
Yes.
that are in the walkway?
And I love
Yep.
them.
It's
They're just
celebratory.
so-
Yeah,
They're just so pretty.
they are.
Everything about it. I mean, the subject matter is just wonderful, but the actual, it's just pretty.
It is very
when you look at
pretty.
it and go, my
Yep.
gosh, you cannot be
And the
not
music
happy
notes
looking at this.
behind them is Vivaldi's Four Seasons, which is why it is
Yes.
called the Four Seasons. So there's a lot of layered aspects to the art that if people do come and do a tour with us, and again, we have book groups who decide to meet over the holidays, and so we kind of throw in a tour. It's not something we do, but because we are so community focused,
Yes.
we do it. So if someone calls and books a luncheon at Lorenzo's and says, we're booking a lunch for 12, can we come at 11? Would somebody show us around the artwork? We're all in.
Now, mentioning Lorenzo's, the artwork, so share, the piano is,
Oh, it's an 1893 Steinway, and we have Bobby Short's piano stool right next to the Steinway.
that's
so
kind
we've
of
got
amazing that you have that.
iconic history that is right there on our Lorenzo stage. And that 1893 Steinway, we have live piano musicians coming in on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during brunch. So you have the experience of live music. The Nicotras have been longtime fans of both Broadway
Yes.
and live performances, and they wanted to bring that to the cabaret room. So when those, Friday night's a good example. So Friday, I was in work very early, I worked all day, and then I went to the cabaret to enjoy some time with my parents and my husband and the Nicotras.
I had the pleasure of meeting your husband.
I'm so glad.
Such a lovely, lovely
Thank you
person.
so
I told him
much.
you were a rock star.
Aw,
he was
he's a rock
beaming with
star.
pride. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Are you married to Kristine? And he's like, yes. I'm like, your wife is a rock star. I
Well,
love
and
her.
you know, in hospitality, it's very important that the people in your life are supportive of the schedule you keep, because
Yes.
it's a little rare. So look, he works at ABC News, and he's a talented editor, so his schedule is just as nuts, but we've made it work somehow. So I walked over, and I went into Lorenzo's, and I greeted some people, and then the pocket doors closed, and the lights went dim. And up in our ceiling, we have beautiful Broadway-style lights that Liza Minnelli's
Yes.
set designer did. So
Really?
this is high-end.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know,
Wow.
so literally I want to set the stage for your viewers that we are really doing a Broadway-style performance here, amazing sound system. And I was at work all day, but when those doors closed and the lights went dim, live music transports you.
Yes.
It does. It
Yes.
really washes away all the worries of the day. We talked about worrying before.
Sure.
I'm not going to think about college tuition while I'm listening to Vinny perform. And that's the escape. And it kind of, you know, I tell people it kicks off your weekend. So, you know, I'm all for some relaxing on the couch sometimes. We all have to do that. But I think you have to push yourself to enjoy those nights out. If the last few years didn't teach us anything, it's go make some memories. And
I
that's
made
what
a
it's
mistake.
about.
When we moved to Staten Island, my husband is from Lighthouse Hill.
Okay.
So he's used to green space, and I'm not. And I
I need a little asphalt.
I was like, no, I was afraid to actually get out of the car to walk into his parents' home because there was just stuff everywhere. And he's like, what do you mean stuff? I'm like, I don't know, chipmunks, raccoons, deer, like, oh my, no.
Right.
And then it's come back to roost because of the pandemic that we really didn't have the outdoor space that you realize you need.
You crave. Yeah.
And I'm able to find that at your location.
Yes.
And it's very close to the house, and the parking is convenient, and it's good food, great show. It's
I'm
comfortable.
thrilled to hear that.
Comfortable people, comfortable everything. And then I get to enjoy that, and then I get to go home and look at Steve and say, I made the mistake. We should have bought someplace that had more green
Well-
space. But you guys kind of lend
Yeah,
your
we
green
get
space to
we can
us.
be your backyard. There you go.
And you know, you never know what you're going to see. Friday night, did you see Brenda Vaccaro?
I did.
I was like, oh.
I did.
Ooh,
And you know,
and Paul McCartney's
mother-in-law.
yes.
Yeah. So we often have various sightings at the hotel of
That was fun.
of celebrities, and I often say that.
But we're nice. Nobody hounded them. We just looked and went.
Oh, good. You know, and real people are our celebrities too. The people like you who are coming all the time and who are our neighbors, but also bring so much joy and life to the Hilton, because we're nothing without our guests, and we know that.
Thank you.
We know that.
I don't know. I love it. I mean, I love the mission of the foundation. I love how it touches, and it is so impactful upon somebody's direct life.
Well,
And I
yes.
love the fact that as a consumer and a customer and as a guest, somehow
You can feel
my
like it's tying
contribution
in.
is
Yep.
helping that and furthering the mission. Because
Yeah.
I'm kind of like a strange person with that. I'm very brand loyal.
Okay.
Once I like something, it's like I'm full in.
Well,
with
I
that.
think a lot of Staten Islanders are like that too, and I think we are very passionate about supporting each other's businesses. And what I wanted to add about the Nicotra Foundation is that the Nicotras had a unique idea when we started giving grants 10 years ago, which was that we have never put any grant in the mail. So every time we award a grant, I meet with the person when they apply to get to know what their mission is. And then we have a gathering twice, 2 or 3 times a year, where we invite every grant recipient to the Commons Cafe. And the Nicotras do what I call hand-to-hand philanthropy. So they are literally handing the check to the grant recipient. And then all those grant recipients from all the nonprofits and the schools and the parishes and the synagogues, they also get to meet each other. So it's almost like a little chamber of commerce for nonprofits.
I love that.
Yeah, so again, that Nicotra style layering of building a community, so even building little mini communities, be it our Love Staten Island group or the recipients of the Nicotra Foundation grants over these last 10 years. And, you know, it really is a special way to do business. It takes a lot more effort. It would be much easier
Yes.
to just write the check and throw it in the mail, but there's something special that happens at those events.
I mean, when we left on Friday night, Rich and Lois stayed at the door until every single guest
Yeah.
left, and nobody wanted to leave the space. And they were there graciously with a smile, shook everyone's hand, thanked
Absolutely.
everybody for coming. So I can only imagine the gathering at the Commons,
Yep.
handing out the grants as being
It's joyful.
another experience
It's joyful.
of.
Yeah, it's like a revival. And everybody too leaves feeling proud of our community. They're proud to be from Staten Island. They're proud that 2 people who are working very hard, but also have achieved a level of success that is admirable, have chosen to build their home and their life on Staten Island, continue to invest. Rich always says he works like a mile from where he grew up. He used to come to South Avenue when it was a dirt road, and he'd sit on his dad's lap and practice driving when he was a little boy.
Really?
So if you
Oh,
think
wow.
about, and for those of us who have lived on Staten Island for a long time, South Avenue didn't always look like how it looks now. So to have the vision that they had when they had their Everything Yogurt Days and needed a world headquarters to say, let's build a Class A office space, which is what those buildings are called. Again, I didn't come from the real estate world. So when I first started working for them, I said, what's a Class A office building? A Class A office building it has a beautiful lobby. There's usually an art element or maybe a water, like a fountain, ample parking. It's the Manhattan-style building that we deserve.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So when you go see your
because-
physician, you're walking into again, I keep using the word elevated. It makes you feel like, yes, this is what I deserve. I deserve a nice building. I should see my physician in a nice office space with, and on Staten Island we became
I'm
used
used to
to
Manhattan, and I'm used
Okay.
to the larger
on
complexes.
Staten Island we were used to like converted homes being our physician's office, which, made it.
It's not for me.
It had a place, but
Yeah.
it no longer has a place.
But I also like the fact that when I walk in there, I feel like a sense of confidence.
Yes.
Being in this particular space.
Well, for people who are growing a business, we also have what we call a suite space, which means that you share a receptionist, you share a meeting space, but we have built out office spaces. So if you are just starting your business and you are interested in a suite space, that's a wonderful opportunity to kind of get your foot in the door. You're now in a beautiful office building. If we go see that accountant or that attorney, we're going to go see them in a beautiful conference room.
It's funny,
Not
many
at a
years
local
ago,
coffee shop or something.
I was the president of the board of directors of the Art Lab, and the foundation gifted us
Yep.
with a beautiful suite to offer art classes to that segment of
I remember
population
that.
on that part of the island that
Yep.
would never come to the North Shore.
Yep.
So we were reaching people who really didn't know Snug Harbor existed, let alone the Art Lab. And it was a wonderful experience.
Well, years
And
ago,
people were confident bringing their children there because it was very safe.
Yes.
Very
And
well lit.
Years ago, I was on the board of the St. George Theater, and
Love
love them.
Yes.
And that was before I was involved with the Nicotra Foundation. Once I became the director of the Nicotra Foundation, I had to recuse myself of nonprofit things. Although I still am PTA mom. That I kept.
Okay.
But you know, I remember us talking about how difficult it is sometimes to get people from Staten Island to go to the other shore that they don't live
Yes.
on. So I think it's really important to draw people in. The St. George Theater has certainly given people reason to want to go to the theater, just like we feel like we've given people reason to want to drive to Lorenzo's and drive, and again, with the ample parking and all of the other amenities. But we're finding that when people move their office to us, they grow with us. So just like our employees have been with us for a long time, Nicotra Group tenants tend to stay for a long time. And the Nicotras always say that we want to be the best landlords in the world, and we think we are. I think all of the tenants would say they have our cell phone numbers. So if they ever
Wow.
come in on a Sunday and there's the light not working, they can give us a ring or text us. We're always making sure that we're upgrading the buildings, always trying to communicate to our tenants and tell them what's going on in the neighborhood.
Every part of that moving wheel,
Yes.
from the tenants to everything, it all positively impacts the foundations.
It does. I think it all, you know, again, it's kind of like a three-ring circus. I describe
Yes,
it. We have the
yes.
hospitality ring, we have the real estate, and then we have the philanthropy. And the philanthropy is always going to be fueled by the goodwill of the brand. But on the other hand, we have to have that heightened hospitality. The food
Sure.
needs to taste good.
Yes.
Our service needs to be excellent, and we realize that. So we call it the Nicotra Way in our company, and we're going to do it the Nicotra Way.
I love this.
Yeah, you know
I
what?
really do.
It's been such an education. I worked in higher education before I came to the Nicotras, and I loved being on a campus, and here I find myself again on a campus. I loved the idea of being a lifelong learner, and here I find myself working for two people who are constantly evolving, constantly both literally and figuratively building something. So always future focused. I gave a tour today of our farm, and
It's got to be amazing.
it's unbelievable. I was joking as I was there. I said, oh, I'm going to be on camera later, and the wind was picking up my hair, but I looked around and I saw all of the bridges of Staten Island and all of the trees. So from the farm, you can see Manhattan. You can see the West Shore, so you can see our waterway on Staten Island. We forget sometimes the industry that is all along the water, the shore. You can see Fresh Kills, which has been beautifully developed now and has a kayaking river. You can see the football fields right at Travis. You just see so much going on Staten Island. So when I'm up there, it's almost like you look below and it's almost like a little train set. And you can see all these beautiful things happening. And the gentleman that I was with said, this makes me love Staten Island. Like, makes me fall in love with it. I said, it's beautiful
a view
to hear
that
it.
everybody should, see, because it's all of the working pieces
And
that
how it
come
comes together. Yep.
that really help each other.
It does. And that's really what
Part of your view is of places that have been recipients of
the foundation
and
money. Yeah.
you're watching them grow as you're
Yep.
up there providing
Yep.
good, clean food
Yep.
for people that didn't have it before you had that.
Absolutely. And when I started with the Nicotras, the foundation was just launching. So one of our main tasks was to go out and let people know they could apply for grants. So for the first 5 years I worked for them, it was like we were running for office. I went to every school, I went to every college, I went to all the churches, I went to community-based organizations to talk about the Nicotra Foundation. And I think in the beginning people, and rightfully so, because as you grow older in life, sometimes you can be, raise an eyebrow at certain things. They're giving 100% of the profits away. Why are they doing this? And I'd say that they're very special, generous people, and they believe in you. They believe in Staten Island. And I think Staten Island doesn't hear that enough.
I agree. If somebody wanted to apply, what is the process? Is it opened at a certain point every year, several times a year?
It's a rolling application. In my former role at St. John's, I was a fundraiser. So one of the things I worked on was making it a very easy application, because I used to sit on the other side of the desk. I used to be asking for money. So now, as a grantor, I was really hoping, and the Nicotras were 100% behind this, that it would be no more than a 2-page application. It's very simple. You just go to nicotraonline.com. You can hit connect with us, and you'll see a drop down, and that's where you can get our application. There's the scholarship application, that's for our employees and their families, and then there's the community application. We have been paused for about a year, maybe a year and a half, because of the pandemic. We had to close the cafe briefly, which was closing all of the areas during the pandemic that had to be closed because of the mandates was tragic in many ways. I think closing the cafe felt painful because it's a big connector for us to the community. But we are excited to be relaunching our foundation in 2023 as we open Pienza. So Pienza is going to be triple the size of the cafe. So we're shooting to triple our giving. So we had given about $100,000 a year. So I'm hoping we can get up to $300,000 a year. And that's really just getting started for us, because we have a philanthropic plan. I have on my desk a 10-year plan. So you'll have to have me back again, because I know we have a limited amount of time, but we have a plan for Staten Island. We are going to really have some big impact.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
and
it really is.
Just think, 2 people could change so much for so many.
And really, to be
really just bring it down to those simple
it's
2
Lois
people.
and Richard Nicotra, and I often say, especially when I'm speaking to school children, because they're meeting them now, they're meeting them as successful adults. So they don't see the 1976 college student who got an assignment in his class to say, what niche market are we not reaching? And he said, I think healthy fast food. Let me see about a frozen yogurt and salad chain. They're not meeting that guy who went to all of his relatives and took loans. And, so I wonder sometimes when I speak with students, I say, I bet you're thinking that they go home and dust off some gold bricks every time they want to do a project. And they say, we have the money. But, they're entrepreneurs. They're going to banks and they're making this happen. So it really inspires me in that way, too, to know that Rich's father worked in the projects and Lois's father was FDNY. Their mothers were both homemakers. So they are us.
Yes.
Very simply, they are Staten Island. So when people think of Staten Island, they should think of people like the Nicotras.
And they could have left the island.
They certainly,
and they could have
many
done
people
so many
do.
other things.
Yeah.
Yes, but they stayed here and they made a commitment.
They did.
And with the foundation, they solidified their names in history.
I think
with it being huge, generous, compassionate, constant givers. And givers of themselves.
They are givers of themselves.
Of their organizations.
They believe that art and flowers elevate our day-to-day experience. And
they're interesting people too, though.
Oh, yes.
Besides the art and the flowers and the visuals of what you see, the optics, they're really nice people and they're very interesting. And I know that when they watch the show, Rich is going to laugh because he's got very good taste in rugs. He and I have had many conversations about rugs and the depth of the pile and everything. And things that my husband looks at me and, we're into it.
The
so
detail and
detail-oriented.
Focused approach.
But the pride. We
yes.
were at some event. I can't even remember what it was. And he comes over to me and goes, look, I did it. And there I am on my hands and knees. And someone
feeling
said,
the pile.
Did you lose an earring?
Yep.
I'm like, no, I'm checking out the pile. And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, you wouldn't get it. It's the carpet.
Yep.
It's the carpet. They're fun. They're interesting. They're just wonderful people. They really, really are. I can't speak enough about it. But I need to ask.
Yes.
The painting at Lorenzo's of their beautiful dog.
So I was going to say that when you ask me my favorite painting, my favorite piece of art, I'm going to choose a sculpture and I'm going to choose a painting. So my other favorite is the photo of Lorenzo's, the photo that Scott Lebedo converted into a beautiful painting. So they had their beloved Maltese Lorenzo, who passed a few years ago and went over the Rainbow Bridge, and we were all sad because Lorenzo really was our office.
I remember Lorenzo there.
He was our office love. You know, he was in the office just like we all were in the office. So
I don't think people realize the restaurant was named after Lorenzo.
Well, a lot of times, you know, somebody from out of town will say, you know, is Lorenzo the owner's son? And I'll say no, but he was their beloved dog, and there's his image. And they're so touched by that, and it's so surprising, but they loved Lorenzo. They love their restaurant, and again, they married those two things together. And when Lorenzo passed, the Advance did a lovely piece on him, because he was really a part of your experience at the Hilton. If you came, you'd often see Lorenzo around.
I remember
that. We are pet friendly. And then Scott messaged me kind of like in the middle of the night, as I think artist hours require, right? It has to be like a 2 a.m. That's when the art. And Scott, he said, do you have a picture of Lorenzo? Because I'd like to do something. And he surprised the Nicotras with that huge portrait framed. And it was very touching, really beautiful.
It really is beautiful.
And I had snapped that picture of Lorenzo at an office birthday party. He was waiting for his piece of cake, as he would do. So, you know, it's a beautiful, layered experience when you come to the Hilton, and I don't say this in an empty way. If somebody comes and they've heard our conversation today and they see me, I would love to point out any of these things. We are there, we exist to help a guest have a great experience. So it's not an imposition. People often message me and say, I'm gonna have lunch in Lorenzo's today at 1, are you gonna be around? Of course I'm gonna be around. We are around because you're coming, really.
But not everybody thinks like that, and that's what makes you special.
Oh,
and that's what makes the organization special and everything about it.
Thank you.
It's funny, there are certain places that I love, the Algonquin being one of them. I'm a huge fan of the place, and it's pretty much like a nice hideaway that Stephen and I go to.
Beautiful.
And their cat at the Algonquin, most people don't know that. It's one of the few places you can get Dorothy Parker gin. And, you know, there are so many special nuances.
Intrigued.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Well, the Nicotras love the Carlisle.
Yes.
So when you come to the Hilton, we are really inspired by a lot of iconic experiences in Manhattan. But let's face it, we can't always get to Manhattan. Sometimes it's more convenient to just drive locally and have a drink at a linen tablecloth restaurant where there's, again, a sense of old world hospitality, and we're not rushing you out. Somebody knows your name. It's like that Cheers.
Yeah.
But also that we have a very spacious dining room, so we're not trying to turn it over. We have enough room where you can come with your girlfriends and sit and talk all night. And to me, that's special, and maybe it's because when I go out with my girlfriends, I want to sit and talk all night.
Right.
But I've had the experience of being rushed out of a restaurant.
Well, that's the whole new where you buy segments for experiences.
Yes.
And so you're buying a 90-minute segment.
Right.
And listen, it has its place because it's that Instagrammable moment, and you can't have somebody occupy that for 4 or 5 hours. But I prefer to sit in a space where no one's chasing me out the door.
Well, and if I'm having a date night, or if
Yes.
I'm having an evening where I'm seeing a friend I haven't seen in a while, and I really want to linger. You know, I don't want to be rushed. The world is always rushing. I feel like the word busy is probably the most overused word because we all say we're busy. I don't want to be busy when I'm creating a memory. I want to linger and I want to have a good time. You know, I don't know if you know this, but our chef, Chef Pete, is married to our restaurant manager. They met at Lorenzo's.
Really?
Yes, they have 2 beautiful little girls.
Oh my gosh.
Corinne and Pete. So there's been, you know, really when people say they feel love in the space, it's because there is love there. You know, we are all very much a part of each other's lives and watching each other's kids growing up. And I think that really does, the guest feels it. I think the guest really feels it.
And it has to come through that way.
I think it does. And even in our offices, we find that people are surprised. So I taught public speaking at St. John's. I was an adjunct professor for about 15 years. And one of the classes I would teach is public speaking. So we would talk about the importance of warm communication. Because even if you're nervous, even if you're anxious, or even if you don't know what you're talking about, most of the time the other person just wants to feel a level of warmth. And I loved when I first came to work for the Nicotras that I saw that in them, that heightened level of warmth. And I also, we talked before about being seen as an employee.
Yes.
So when we talk to our new employees, our guest service agents, the people who are greeting, you know, they're literally the front door of the hotel experience. So they're at the front desk. we talk to them about being warm and taking the time. And again, that's not the norm anymore.
And it's not for everyone. Not everybody
sure.
can do that.
Sure, and that's okay.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to have this level of expectations going across the board that I'm not sure many people are accustomed to hearing. We want you to enjoy your work experience. Yeah. So it needs to come through. And
Right.
people are like, I'm sorry, what, you care?
Right.
It's not just,
well, a lot of people have chosen to leave the hospitality industry. If you read any stories, so many hotels in Manhattan closed because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, people are, I guess, the stress of life and politics and whatever, people don't want to deal with the public. But we always say, like, you have to fill your cup. You have to find a way to be happy. But when you, again, shine that out, I do think it reflects back on you. So that warm communication mm-hmm. is a great tool in any industry. And I think if you worked in hospitality, you can work in any industry.
Oh, absolutely.
It translates to so many different industries.
It builds a level of confidence. And I also think that most people don't look at the hospitality industry as being so broad-based.
And it is the skills you acquire.
Just going to school on the hospitality
yeah.
end, like Stephen is the president of the Food and Beverage Association of
yes.
America, and they provide scholarships for hospitality majors
yep.
to continue their education. Mm-hmm. When you talk to somebody who's young, they look at you and they're like, hospitality?
Right.
Oh, isn't that like a part-time job? No, that's not a job.
No, that's a profession.
That's a career.
Yes.
And that's a lifestyle.
And it's one to aspire to. It is a lifestyle. When we welcome new employees to certain roles, not every role is like this, but a lot of roles you are going to be working on an evening or a weekend. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why we're very focused on making it as enjoyable as it can be, but also having our employees feel supported and feel like they have a resource. Mrs. Nicotra was a school teacher before she helped, before she joined Mr. Nicotra and helped him grow his business. They ended up having 250 stores around the world.
Amazing.
So their headquarters were always on Staten Island, but as they franchised, they expanded. And Mrs. Nicotra is a big believer in pausing and taking time to communicate with people in a warm way. And
well,
again,
that's the educator in her.
It is the educator, and it's the early childhood educator. Mm-hmm. And also complimenting people. I want to point that out. So I am also the daughter of a second grade teacher. And so I would hear my mom as a tool say, oh, John is sitting up so beautifully. Look at how John's sitting and paying attention, and everybody else sits up. And I see Mrs. Nicotra using positive reinforcement, mm-hmm. and that is not a juvenile thing, it's an inspirational thing.
Yes.
So to say, look at Diane, she's speaking so beautifully about Staten Island, and then maybe somebody else wants to speak beautifully about Staten Island and give back to the community, because we all want to, I think, do better, and sometimes we just need to see an avenue to how to do better. And we have to all recognize the good. I
cannot believe that we're almost at the very end. See, you need to come here often. You need to come here more.
I'm so close. Drive right down the street.
And I think we need to come and visit you. I definitely want to do a tour of all of the art. I want to revisit all of it.
I would love that.
And I would love to do a segment on the love sign and how that has really transcended.
From 2016, I think that the Nicotras erected the love sign. And we love when anyone comes. So we, of course, want everybody to come have an event at the Hilton or Lorenzo's. But no matter what you're doing, if you're taking a holiday photo, if you're taking any sort of family reunion and you want to come stand by love, everybody's welcome. And maybe we can also do a food tasting show, too. Because as I said, I love to eat.
I would love that.
I think we should.
I would love that. Especially if it's a day where they want to test out burgers again or something like that.
I think we have to.
But I would, you know what? I have an idea.
Okay.
And we're going to talk afterwards.
All right.
But I definitely have an idea for this. And I want you to come back and I want you to join us. But I am so appreciative that you are here and that you are my friend and that you work for two amazing people who really do so much for Staten Island and especially make people like me, the bridge people, love being here.
Well, thank you for showing us love.
And giving us a place to love and to enjoy our time here.
Thank you so much. And I hope that anybody who wants to connect with us will either go to our website, they can find me online, or they can find any of our brands online on social, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Kristine Garlisi. Happy to connect with anybody. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you. I love you.